Hey, Nancy.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Let me think about that. I think I'm pretty good considering, actually.
Good, good. So this is just so everybody knows, I love Nancy. Nancy knows me. She's in one of my classes. This is the only everybody else so far I just met for the first time. So this is the first ringer, right? But Nancy asked if she could play, and she asked to do Shakespeare. And so I just think it's a great thing for us to see and see how this approach works with Shakespeare. So I wanted to have Nancy jump in and play with us. You have to be or not to be, yes?
Yep.
Great. Okay. So Nancy has to be or not to be, Hamlet's to be or not to be, and this is what she wants to play with, and I'm so excited for her to play with it. So what is your essential action?
The central action is to prevent a friend from making a tragic mistake that they're probably going to make anyway.
Great. To get a friend, to prevent a friend from making a tragic mistake they're probably going to make anyway. And what's the as if?
And the as if is, I think, as if my son is going to take heroin and I know about it.
Okay. So as if your son's going to take heroin.
We'll shoot heroin.
We'll shoot heroin. Now, let me ask you, do you feel that, because to me, the trap with it would be is if it's too much. Do you know what I mean? If it's just like blow the gaskets out, like I don't want to think about that, or it's just too overwhelming. So do you think you think like, no, I want to stick with, my son, or can you imagine another friend, a good friend who's done it before and they're doing it again?
I can. I don't think the son thing would be a blowout, but you
Well, let's
never
try
know.
it. Well, let me ask you. And again, guys, when working, so this is a great example of working with high stakes as if, right? So she's working on Hamlet's to be or not to be. So she rightfully is like, what's a high stakes as if? And so what I'm doing with her is talking about like, okay, is it son shooting dope or friend shooting dope? And one of the things that I'm looking for is like, is it safe to play with? And is the mind going to shut down if it's too much, if I don't want to think about it? But what I hear Nancy saying is, for reasons she may not even understand, but if I hear you correct, Nancy, you're saying, no, I think I can handle it being my son, and that's kind of where I want to go.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And so the situation is he's done it before, or he's about to do it again, or
He's done it before and then got clean of it, and he's about to do it again.
and you know this, and you're trying to prevent him from doing this
Yes.
tragic mistake, but you think he's going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Okay, so close your eyes and be there in the same room with your son, your place, his place, wherever you are. And you guys have been talking. He said what he said, you said what you said, and now you are just going for it, making this last ditch attempt to try to prevent him, try desperately to prevent him from making this tragic mistake that you honestly think he's probably going to make anyway. But you're trying to prevent it. And really see him, see his face. Watch yourself go after it. And when I say open your eyes, you will look at the black dot in the camera or a point near it. You will keep seeing your son, see your son in your mind, and keep doing the improv out loud. And when I say monologue, you'll go to the monologue, and we might go back and forth. But whether you're doing monologue or improv, you're seeing the son, you're seeing him, and you're trying to prevent this tragic mistake. Open your eyes.
Will, I want you to listen to me. You have done this before, and you know what happens with you. You cannot just do it once. You cannot, you have never done that. Please, please think about this. Think about what the consequences of that were. Please, please don't do this again. You know what happened. You know what jail is like because of this.
Monologue.
To be or not to be. That's the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing in them, to die, to sleep, no more. But in that sleep to say, we end
Improv.
You know what has happened. You have suffered the consequences. You've lost a marriage. You've lost a family. You are on the street. You cannot try this again. It's not
Monologue.
to end the heartache and the 1,000 natural shocks that flesh is heir to. 'Tis a consummation devoutly to be wished. To die, to sleep, to sleep, perchance to dream. Aye, there's the rub.
Improv.
You don't know what will happen to you this time. You know what happened to you last time, but this time you could die out there. You could be killed out there. You know how far it went the last time and how hard it was to get out of that. And now you've lost Jessica. You've lost all your friends.
Monologue, just like that, monologue.
To die, to sleep. To sleep, perchance, to dream. Aye, there's the rub. For in that sleep of death, what dreams may come when we have shuffled off this mortal coil, must give us pause. For who would bear the whips and scorns of time, the oppressor's wrong, the law's delay, the proud man's contemplate, but that the fear of something after death, the undiscovered country from whose bourne no traveler returns, puzzles the will and makes us rather bear those ills we have than fly to others that we know not of. Thus, conscience does make cowards of us all. And thus the native hue of resolution is sicklied o'er with the pale cast of thought, and enterprises of great pith and moment with this regard, their currents turn awry and lose the name of action. Soft you now, the fair Ophelia. Nymph, in thy orisons be all my sins remembered.
Very, very nice, Nancy. Very, very, very nice. Thank you. Thank you so much. So thrilling and so moving to watch. And as I know, you know, from working this way, and we've done Shakespeare together, and like we were talking to one of the actresses earlier, right? Like, even when you're doing the signifiers, it's like, wow. But when you're letting the lines mean anything, you know what I mean? It's just like, and you could feel it, right? So like sometimes when I would hear the improv, it was like you were going from really, and then it's like the idea, you know what I mean? Like the idea of the thing, the poetic idea of the, but then you would come back and watching you in that final, you know, before you had the final part there, but that last kind of tear into it, it was just so moving. because you were really letting the lines mean anything. And we just saw it happening right then. Do you know what I mean? And you were just like doing the thing through all this beautiful poetry
Yeah.
that is hitting us when we're not trying to frame the poetry.
Yep.
But even when we're trying to frame the poetry, even when it's framed as beautifully as Nancy does, and no one, you know, sort of like does the framing signifying more beautiful than Nancy, but the difference, we can just see it. I know you can feel it, right? When it's
Yes.
just like, when it's
Totally.
like, it's not, I don't know how this is going. I'm just seeing my son and I'm going for it.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's so moving to watch.
Yeah.
Right?
You know, can I say that I am doing this work with you because I've done very well with the signifiers. I've worked as an actress and earned my living for 30 years, but this is so much more fun than anything that I've ever learned to do. And so I am determined to get it, you know, somatically, because it's just way more satisfying. And you spend, as an actor, you spend most of your time in auditions. And
Right.
that's where the work, you know, the art needs to be. So anyway, thank you.
Right.
Thank
You're
you.
so welcome. Thank you. And it's such a joy watching that, you know, and I love the way you said somatically, right? Because that's, and watching the actor get it more somatically, experientially. Do you know what I mean? Like the ego keeps wanting to control it. And, you know, Nancy working this way a while can attest to that. It's just like, it's humbling. Do you know what I mean? Right? Because the ego will just, you know, like, wait, what and what? But it's that experiential. It's like, no, shit. I know it when it's happening. I
Yeah.
know it when it's happening.
Yeah.
And this was not a staged infomercial. This is like, Nancy asked me, I love Nancy, and she wanted to do To Be or Not to Be, you know, here in front of you guys. And so I, of course, how can I say no, especially when we get to see, you know, again, such a moving performance and a great example of what we're after. And yeah, I just love the way you described it, Nance. It's like, you know, and to hear you say, you know, you worked for so long and so many years, and to have that joy, do you know what I mean? In the deep joy that comes from the non-signifier performance. Because like I hear you saying, like even someone who can do the signifier is so good that you're like, holy shit, that might book the job, that signifier. But when we see, like in what we just saw, when you were in the prolonged moments, when you were on that action, it's just so profoundly gripping. And suddenly, you know, for some people, I think for the first time, Shakespeare, like, oh my God, that really means something, because it means something so visceral to you, you know? And when it's non-manipulated, there's just no denying it, you know? There's just no denying it. So thank you, beautiful work. I love you. Thank you, Nancy.